The Viking Age, often characterized by raiding and exploration, was also a period of profound cultural transformation. As Norse peoples interacted with Christian Europe, their ancient pagan beliefs began a slow, complex shift towards a new faith. This conversion was not a sudden dramatic event across all of Scandinavia. It was a gradual process, unfolding over centuries, influenced by trade, politics, and the persistent efforts of missionaries and rulers. The initial encounters were often violent, with monasteries being prime targets for Viking raiders. Yet these interactions also brought exposure to Christian ideas and symbols. Over time, trade routes and settlements in Christian lands fostered deeper connections. Vikings settling in places like the British Isles or Normandy began to adopt the local religion. While grassroots conversion occurred, the most significant impetus often came from the top. Scandinavian kings and chieftains recognized the political and economic advantages of aligning with Christian Europe. Adopting Christianity could solidify their rule, provide access to powerful alliances, and integrate them into the established European network of kingdoms. It was a strategic move as much as a spiritual one. One of the most pivotal figures in this royal-led conversion was Harald Blåtand, or Harald Bluetooth, King of Denmark. His reign in the mid-10th century marked a turning point for the Danes. Harald is famously commemorated on the Jelling runestones which he erected. One stone declares that Harald won for himself all of Denmark and Norway and made the Danes Christian. While the claim of conquering all of Norway might be an exaggeration, the statement about Christianizing the Danes is widely accepted. Harald's conversion, likely influenced by German missionaries and political pressure, signaled a new direction for Denmark. His decision paved the way for the formal establishment of the church in Denmark and began the process of dismantling the old pagan structures. It was a top-down conversion that gradually filtered through society. Norway's path to Christianity was perhaps more turbulent than Denmark's. It involved several kings who championed the new faith, often facing fierce resistance from those loyal to the old gods. Early attempts were made by figures like Håkon the Good in the 10th century, who had been raised in England but faced strong opposition upon returning to Norway. The saga of Norwegian kings, particularly accounts found in works like Snorri Sturluson's Heimskringla, chronicle the efforts of later kings. Olaf Tryggvason, who reigned around the turn of the 11th century, is depicted as a zealous, sometimes brutal, converter. According to the sagas, Olaf Tryggvason used a mix of preaching, political pressure, and outright force to compel his subjects to abandon paganism. He destroyed temples and enforced Christian laws. Another key figure documented in the sagas is Olaf II, later known as Saint Olaf. His reign in the early 11th century saw further consolidation of Christianity, though he too faced significant opposition and was eventually killed in battle. The sagas portray these kings as divinely appointed agents of conversion, highlighting the struggles and sacrifices involved in establishing the new religion across Norway. The methods of conversion varied. Missionaries preached, often targeting rulers first. Churches were built, sometimes on the sites of former pagan temples. Christian laws were introduced, gradually replacing or incorporating elements of older legal traditions. Baptism became a requirement for political legitimacy and social acceptance. For those who resisted, the consequences could be severe, ranging from loss of status and property to exile or even death, as depicted in some historical accounts and sagas. The conversion had a profound impact on Viking society. It integrated Scandinavia more closely with the rest of Europe, opening up new avenues for trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. It also led to the decline of traditional pagan practices and the rise of a new ecclesiastical structure. The power of the old chieftains, often linked to religious rituals, was challenged by the authority of the church and the Christian king. While elements of the old beliefs persisted in folklore and custom for centuries, the formal conversion marked the end of the Viking Age as a distinct cultural and religious entity separate from Christian Europe. By the 11th and 12th centuries, Scandinavia was largely Christianized, its kingdoms now part of the wider European community of nations under the cross. The age of the Raven Banner had yielded to the age of the cross.